Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us here this afternoon for this special press conference with the Ministry of Education and the Department of Education. Before we begin, I'd like to start us off with a word of prayer and ask the CEO if he could indulge us.
System. We pray that you continue to look over them, to protect them, to guide them, to give them your wisdom. And God, I pray for those of us who are charged with their care, parents, teachers, guardians, those within the wider community. God, that we will do everything in our power to protect them, and God, to show them a way that is consistent with your divine will for their lives. Continue to be with us, your people. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Good morning, good afternoon again, everyone. So COVID-19 has created some unprecedented challenges in the education system over the past 17 months. And the Ministry of Education and the Department of Education have done its best in planning based on the medical evidence and the scientific forecasting. But we also know that there's a level of unpredictability as it relates to this pandemic and how it shows up in our society. We are aware that in the course of the actions that we take, it will require us to juggle the educational needs of our students, the teaching parameters of our staff, and the economic conditions of our community. And because education is a lens through which we see a lot of these things play out, the Ministry and Department of Education have decided to take a number of decisions. On Monday, the 16th of August, when we announced this special press conference, the plan for this conference was to detail the arrangements and the protocols for the reopening of face-to-face instruction at the schools. However, in light of the prevailing COVID-19 situation, the Ministry of Education and the Department of Education have decided to reopen schools via the remote learning platforms on the 6th of September 2021. This means that students will not be returning to physical classroom spaces at the start of the school for a 2-week instance in the first instance. And we will use these 2 weeks to get past a certain period and to assess the situation on island and bolster our collective preparedness. Undoubtedly, the fact that there are cases of COVID-19 without a known source and without travel history is a cause for concern and for caution, and the health team continues its contact tracing. Students are, of course, considered a very vulnerable population regionally and internationally due to their inability to vaccinate, and thus we are taking protective measures and proactive measures for their safety. While the island-wide vaccination rates and efforts have provided an additional layer of protection in the face of the mutating form of the virus and the more serious harm to children and the limited resources that we have to physically distance children, we are not really where we would like to be. It is important at this stage to say that it is the responsibility of both parents and teachers to vaccinate and to help to protect our vulnerable populations. I know that a number of teachers have been working very hard to prepare their virtual classrooms during this period, and they'll continue to do so, but we must now look to prepare our virtual classroom for this interim period. It is becoming clearer the longer that we live with this pandemic and the longer we have unprotected students, that there are sacrifices that will have to be made to ensure that they are prioritized. And we know, of course, that teaching via online platforms is not an ideal replacement for face-to-face learning. And indeed, it's not a replacement for face-to-face learning. So as we go through this interim period, we will be using this to provide information to parents and support to teachers so that we can carry as little interruption into the first semester, irrespective of the prevailing conditions with COVID-19. So that being said, this afternoon, we're going to be going through a number of, we're going to have the Chief Education Officer outline some of the plans, what to expect if you're a parent in relation to e-learning coming this semester.
Thank you, Minister. I will start by providing the general public with an update on what we've been doing and what we've accomplished thus far where e-learning is concerned. We'll also look at challenges, and we will look at the current guidelines that are provided to teachers and parents where e-learning is concerned. But first, let me report or provide a brief update. When we closed schools physically during the last academic year, our highest student engagement level was 93% online. That was commendable, and it was reflective of all the work that was done in the months prior. The lowest student engagement level was around 78%. Learning packs were distributed to about 5 to 10% of students at various schools. Now, learning packs are distributed to students who do not have access to a device in the home or do not have access to internet. So let us continue now to look at the accomplishments. What we have seen is an increased engagement by both parents and students during e-learning periods, and that's commendable, and I would like to thank our parents for their interest, their attention, and the time spent with students during this period. Access to e-learning platforms by students have improved significantly, and that had a lot to do with their familiarity and training with the technology. Number of devices in homes, we have seen a significant progress in this area, and the government of Anguilla and our community partners are to be thanked. Government provided duty concessions on all laptops entering the country for students at the pre-primary, primary, and secondary levels. We were also able to procure 100 laptops for students. These laptops are rented on an annual basis to students primarily from low-income homes that cannot afford. Another 108 laptops were procured for teachers at the primary and pre-primary level to strengthen access to e-learning platforms by teachers. Also, we have 2 ongoing initiatives in this area that will provide an additional, within the coming months, an additional 155 laptops. And if the second initiative is successful, we should be able to double that amount. We also had affordable internet packages from both Digicel and Flow, and we want to commend them for their partnership with us. So parents from low-income homes, or parents generally who are in the market for low, affordable internet access, can do so by inquiring at the Department of Education. We also launched 2 e-learning days, and schools were able to pilot e-learning schedules and test key technologies during this period. All stakeholders were also engaged and received training. So those e-learning days was a key component that helped us to bridge the gap, the level of engagement, are directly responsible for the level of engagement that we are currently seeing. Evidence that more parents are now comfortable engaging with the e-learning platforms, and this is due to the e-training, and also e-training is also available for parents. So if parents would like to gain more familiarity with the platforms, we can arrange one-on-one sessions, and the sessions are like 10 minutes. We can respond to specific questions, concerns, or if you want to learn how to operate or conduct particular functions on the e-learning platforms, we have teams available that can provide that assistance. We also established an e-learning team at the Department of Education, staffed with 3 persons, and we'll talk a little bit more about that going forward. And they are available to assist teachers, parents, and students. Some of the challenges. Sporadic engagement of some students, although they have access, particularly students who are not supervised in the home, getting them to attend their classes on time and on a regular basis is a challenge. Lack of devices, as I mentioned, and internet access in homes, a need to create learning environments in homes, coupled with consistent supervision. And I want to encourage parents, a learning environment is a quiet space that students can sit, engage with their classes online, and conduct or do their schoolwork. It is not helpful to the student when they're doing that in a background that is noisy or people are moving up and down. So we're really trying to encourage parents to create within their homes that quiet space for where students can work. Need to communicate challenges with teachers, school administrators in a timely manner. Too often we are learning of challenges when it's too late to provide directed assistance. So we are asking parents immediately to communicate any challenges you're having in your home with devices or with the platforms, or any challenges or difficulties students are encountering. Please reach out to us immediately, as simple as an email or WhatsApp message. Let us know so we can respond in a timely manner. The e-learning team is working day after day to respond, and their response rates could be as quickly as 10 minutes or 20 minutes, depending on the volume of queries that are coming in from time to time. At this stage now, I'll go through the guidelines for e-learning. From the guidelines, parents, you'll be able to get a sense of what you can expect if you're at the primary level, and I'll also give some information if you're at the secondary level. First, we look at the guidelines for the primary level. All teachers are expected to use the approved e-learning platforms for their school. And by now, parents should be aware, if you're in the primary sector, that platform is Google Classroom. If you're at the secondary school, Forms 1 and 2, it's Google Classroom. Forms 3 to 6 is Edmodo. This is the recommended breakdown for subjects per week. So at the primary level, numeracy, 3 assignments or tasks per week. One of the queries that consistently come back to us is this, Mr. Rumley, is this enough? It is. All right, we have to remember the environment in which we are operating. This environment is not, it provides a unique set of challenges. They are not in a face-to-face setting in a classroom where they are engaged on a daily basis. So the volume of work that you will see covered in a class on a day-to-day basis, we should not be expecting teachers or students to cover that volume on an e-learning platform or face-to-face on an e-learning platform. So we need to significantly reduce the volume. The focus, however, must always remain on the quality of the instruction and the follow-up and engagement between teacher and students, not volume. Too often we get queries about volume. So it's 3 assignments, tasks per week for numeracy. When a new concept is taught, it should be demonstrated, practiced, reinforced several times before moving on to a new one. And we should, as much as possible, and this is for teachers, include higher order problem-solving questions, word problems and learning timetables, etc. Okay? But the class teacher will direct the instruction, but this is what parents should expect in numeracy. In literacy, same thing. 3 assignments, tasks per week. When a new concept is taught, it should be demonstrated, practiced, reinforced several times before moving on to a new one. And we encourage our teachers to include all aspects of literacy: reading comprehension, composition, grammar, word study, and writing. In our other subjects, for science, for example, we advise that 2 assignments and tasks for science should be done per week, 2 assignments or tasks for social studies, 1 PE activity, 1 assignment each for ICT, music, and art. Remember, this is per week. Tasks or assignments can include outdoor activities, not necessarily something on a computer, Projects that include the rest of the family, since the family in most of these circumstances, the children are home. Playing games, observing things in and out of the house, gardening, planting seeds, cooking, etc. Okay? So it's not just on a computer or something assigned in a book or something assigned online. Okay? The activities can take various forms. Assignments and tasks can also include videos, instructional links with assigned work. Teachers will avoid sending material that has to be photocopied by the parent. At this point, I will also encourage parents, although we are starting utilizing e-learning platforms, please, as much as you can, to secure the needed textbooks, because textbooks, the presence of textbooks in the home also complement e-learning. And it's an easy way to assign work and ensure students, all students are working at the same pace. Sorry, all students are engaged in common activities. Exercises from class texts and online sources can also be assigned, as mentioned. Continuing, teachers should have learning packs prepared for students who do not have access to a device or internet. These packs can consist of textbooks, workbook or exercises. Now that teachers are aware that we are starting utilizing e-learning, those packs, the discussions have already started with regards to the production of those packs, and we would advise parents to pick them up at their respective schools if they do not have internet access in the home or a device. The department will also ensure that schools that we return the devices we have for rental, so parents that come from low-income homes who cannot afford a device can have access to those devices. Unfortunately, we have 100 devices and we have 2,000 students. So we will not have a device for every single student that fall in that category. But let me also bear in mind, and I must compliment our parents for this, since the first shutdown, parents have increased, we have seen an increase in the number of devices bought for students. So we are not in need of 2,000 devices per se, okay? But we do have a significant number of students still that come from low-income homes that cannot afford a device of their own, so we are trying to fill that need. If necessary, answer sheets or assigned tasks should be provided so that parents and students themselves can assess their work. Teachers are encouraged to conduct I want to repeat that. Teachers are encouraged to conduct 3 live sessions per week for no more than half hour or 15 minutes per session. The session should not be very lengthy, instructional in nature. During these sessions, teachers can go over work set, give feedback, address concerns, and answer questions. Ensure that there's adequate time for the completion of assignments, tasks, and projects that are given. Remember that learning at home is different from learning at school. I'll repeat that. Learning at home is different from learning at school. So the expectations in terms of what is done on a normal face-to-face day in the classroom, we cannot take those expectations to e-learning, okay? We don't want to overburden our students. They do not have that direct contact with teachers. And I also want to remind our parents and families generally that teachers themselves are dealing with the same challenges that you are in their homes. They too have children who are concerned about the condition in the country, and they have this. Their families are also touched by persons who are COVID positive or dealing with COVID. So we need to be realistic in terms of our expectations of each other. All right. E-learning, no one will tell you that e-learning is a perfect replacement for face-to-face. The minister alluded to that. It is not. It is not the preferred mode of instruction for any education system, but it is a reliable substitute in times of natural or other disruptions to the education system. Weekly attendance engagement registers are required to monitor the participation of students, so we do monitor students' engagement online. Teachers are encouraged to allocate at least 1 hour, a minimum of 3 days per week, to answer questions and address any concerns of parents and our students. These office hours can be facilitated through live sessions via Google Meet or Zoom, WhatsApp, DOE email, or any other means of the teacher's choice. So that's the e-learning guidelines. I want to talk a little bit now about communication with the school administrators and teachers. It is critical that that parents understand how best to contact the institutions that their child or children are enrolled at. All right, communication is a critical component of our relationship with the home. We need to maintain respectful and open communication. And I will also add, as I mentioned before, timely communication. Always use a respectful and polite tone. I know these are difficult times for us all, but we need to maintain a level of respect and professionalism when engaging each other. Requests, don't demand. Okay? We are all in the same boat together. We are working towards the same goals. Be ready not just to provide information, but to listen to the teacher or staff observations and perspectives as well on any matters you're dealing with. Enter the exchange with an open mind and assume a shared best interest of your child, because that's the foundational principle under which we operate within the education system. Be prepared to work collaboratively to solve problems. The school cannot address every issue on its own. The teacher is not Superman or Superwoman. We require the assistance of all stakeholders to address issues that we are dealing with. In like manner, we require the full cooperation and assistance of the home. Confidentiality. Recognize that confidentiality may limit information that can be shared from the school to parents, including consequences of other students' behavior. And also allot adequate time to respond to communication. Teachers will make every effort to respond as soon as possible to parents' communications, with the understanding that the teaching day sometimes preludes immediate responses. Teachers and staff may need some time to collect needed information before responding. So who should you contact? Most communication of classroom or playground concerns should be directed at first instance to your child's teacher. If you have an issue with a particular staff member, first try to address those concerns with that staff member directly. If you have discussed with your child's teacher and the issue, if you have discussed the issue with your child's teacher and the issue has not been addressed to your satisfaction, then contact the school's principal. Matters should only be transferred to the Department of Education after you have exhausted options at the school. If you want to contact your teacher, this is the format of email addresses in the education system. It is the first name of the teacher, dot the last name at doe.edu.ai. So if you want to contact me using the department's email, my email address is bren.rumley@doe.edu.ai. You only need to know the name of the person you're contacting to know their email address. Other methods of contact includes e-learning platforms and WhatsApp. Email messages can be sent at any time, no restrictions, and are highly recommended. Messages via WhatsApp should be sent respecting the rules and parameters established by teachers. Phone calls during the work hours only, preferably using the school's number. Where a teacher's personal number is shared, please follow parameters established by the teacher. Don't call the teacher at 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 at night. If you need technical assistance, these are the persons you will contact with e-learning or any other matters for quick and rapid responses. For schools that are using Google Classroom, you should contact the head of the e-learning team, Mrs. Winona Lawrence, or Teacher Wendy. Her email address is there. The hours for the contact is there. Dejanique Bagwan, Kenisha Barbaro, and again, all the email addresses and contact information is there. If your child is at the Albina Lake Arch Comprehensive School and they're using Edmodo, the email address is there for the contact. You can contact the same persons before, Teacher Wendy, Teacher Dejanique, Kenisha, and their contact information is there. The Albina Lake Arch Comprehensive School email address is there. Okay? So we encourage you to reach out to us in a timely manner with any concerns so we can respond to you in a timely manner. All right, so thank you for listening, and I turn back to the minister.
Thank you, CEO, for going through some of the e-learning guidelines. I now want to open it up for questions and discussions. I know that there'll be a number of, I know that we have one representative from Radio Anguilla, but there's also feed from online, so we'll be able to go through both of those for the next 15 minutes.
Good afternoon. We have 4 questions from online. The first one says, what about the children who are going from grade 6 to first form? And I guess they want to know about the procedure.
Yes, we had a brief discussion about that transition yesterday. The Albina Lake Arch Comprehensive School will be in contact with parents on organizing virtual transition, a virtual transition process. So you should be getting more details about that next week. We are aware we have a number of transitions, not from 6th to 1st, but the minister also highlighted some others in a conversation we had yesterday. We also have to look at students moving from 2 to 3 and 3 to 4, etc. And then there's a transition to 6th form as well. Okay, so we are aware of that, and we are working at a very quick pace to provide guidelines to parents and information to parents as to how we're going to conduct those transitions. By now, though, the registration process for students for Form 1 should have already been completed. Okay.
How will this work for kindergartners?
Again, the registration process for students entering kindergarten at the primary level is already completed. What we're doing right now is preparing email addresses for these students to establish their e-learning platforms. And the e-learning team started that process weeks ago. So now that we're going to start schools in the e-learning by utilizing the e-learning platforms. We are speeding that process up, and we'll advise parents on how that will work going forward. But parents will be contacted with regards to the email addresses, how to access it, the platforms. Sessions will be arranged, as we've done in the past, to train parents how to access those platforms and provide assistance to those students.
What percentage of students are still without devices?
That number changes. I don't have a percentage. I could tell you, based on the first survey we did, it was about 325 students homes that, sorry, let me say students, not necessarily homes, because it could be multiple students in a home that did not have access to a device. We've made significant progress since then, so I cannot give a precise number at this stage. But what I can tell you, which can give you some indications, when we did the learning packs for the last shutdown at the end of, during term 3, only about 10 to 12%, 10 to 15% of students at schools required learning packs. So that number is slowly decreasing.
Okay, when will parents know who their child teacher is?
Okay, that teachers have already been assigned to grades. So as we set up the new e-learning classrooms, teachers will be reaching out to parents and that they will know. So they will know. I would say by the commencement of planning week, they should know.
If this is not a lockdown and parents will be at work, how will kindergarten to grade 2 students be supervised?
Okay, this is a question that we have to address every time that we're faced with this. There are a number of things. I don't know the circumstance of every home, but what we've encouraged parents to do is to reach out to family members that might be able to provide that assistance. And we've seen some success where that is concerned. It is not a lockdown, which means people can move around freely, just protecting themselves. So families have the opportunity, if there's one home that is within families, let me be clear so I don't encourage persons who are not from a household to think. Within families, if within a family, if children can come together to utilize existing devices under supervision, utilize that. But I think the solution to that challenge is home-based, and families will have to look at the resources and the support structure around them to determine what solution works best. But what we are encouraged with this time is that we are not on a full lockdown. So it also opened up additional opportunities for families to problem solve around that.
All right, I'm not sure if the slide would have said this, but a question came in. How does a 15-minute or half-hour session serve to be enough for fifth farmers? But I think you were speaking about primary school.
Primary, yes.
All right.
Yes. Let me answer though with regards to secondary. The sessions, obviously the students are older, the sessions are longer. Teachers at the secondary level are encouraged to utilize the time allotted to them in their timetable. So the sessions can be longer, right? The entire approach at secondary will be different than the approach at primary. Okay, so there's more flexibility at secondary in terms of the duration of the sessions, number of sessions, etc.
The guidelines for the secondary sector has not been outlined. Will this be addressed?
Yes, those guidelines were forwarded the last time round. We will address it, but I can go briefly through those guidelines with you. The platforms for secondary, if your child is in forms 1 and 2, it's Google Classroom, as mentioned before. If the child is in forms 3 through to 6, it is Edmodo. The teachers at the secondary school will be utilizing their existing timetable, so the children can expect engagement during those times allotted, live sessions during those times allotted. If there are any issues in the first instance, contact the class teacher or the head of the department. If that does not work, contact the deputy principal responsible for curriculum or the principal directly. And I gave the format to parents on how to do that. Teachers at the secondary level will be utilizing both live sessions. They will assign work online, activities online, assessments online, etc., extension activities. They'll be also utilizing textbooks. So I do encourage parents to acquire as much as possible. They assign textbooks for the various forms or the various subjects. And that's pretty much the guidelines that govern the secondary level. But it's important, parents, that if there are any issues that pop up or you realize that your child is not being engaged for a particular subject, that you contact the class teacher for that subject. If there's not a response, you contact the deputy principal for curriculum, the principal, and also the e-learning team, so we can find out what is the challenge or what's the problem and address that immediately.
Will students be expected to dress in uniform for these e-learning sessions?
No, not necessarily, not uniform. They should be properly dressed though, and we want parents to monitor that because we are asking them to put on their cameras for full engagement. So we are asking parents to ensure that their children are properly dressed, body fully covered, casually elegant will be the term I use, if not uniforms. If you're not sure about the casually elegant thing, what will fall in that category, the uniform will work as well, right? But we want the cameras on as much as possible to ensure full engagement of students.
I think maybe for the avoidance I think maybe for the avoidance of doubt, if there are circumstances and you don't know what to dress your child in for classroom, put the child in the uniform, please. So it might just be easier for everyone to just simply wear their uniform.
There's a school of thought that might help them to engage a little bit more as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, students whose parents do not speak English as their first language, those ESL students in the system, how do we plan to address that when they don't have the support at home because the parent does not speak English?
Right. What we are doing, what we've been doing since the very first shutdown is trying to investigate how best we can provide our support services virtually. I know we've made some progress with reading recovery, and I must compliment that team, and also with remedial reading. I will have to look at ESL and see what options are available where that is concerned. We've also made significant progress with SEN students in our centers and providing them with packs and support during lockdown periods. But I'll have to investigate, or rather address that issue and post guidelines on our Facebook page with regards to ESL students. Are the existing cohort of ESL students that are receiving direct support.
Good afternoon. Ms. Kentish Rogers, you just outlined that school will be opening for 2 weeks, well, online classes. Can you tell us exactly how many teachers are vaccinated, and is this a reason for the 2-week online class?
So I'll take the second part of the question first. The 2-week is just an initial period for us to assess the situation on island. As you know, we do have COVID cases, active COVID cases on island, and the health team is still investigating the source of particular COVID cases. So in light of those circumstances, the Ministry and Department of Education decided to go to remote learning, given the risk factor that is present. Now, as it relates to the vaccination status of teachers, we do not have the information, the direct information as it relates to teachers' vaccination status. And that is because some of that information just is not available to us, other than maybe asking them if they can voluntarily provide that information. We have a general idea, a very general idea of the level of vaccination among teachers. And it has substantially increased since the last time we had a conversation about the vaccination level of teachers.
Substantially increased. So is this good enough for you? Is this a concern for parents? And how does the ministry intend on dealing with this issue going forward?
It's going to continue to be an issue for everyone, and the government's continuing to encourage people to vaccinate. Thus far, we've not made it a requirement, but we continue to encourage teachers and everybody who can get vaccinated to be vaccinated.
Well, as you know, we don't currently have more vaccine doses on island. So in the short term, as far as it relates to vaccination, there's not anything that we can do immediately to address vaccination concerns as a result of the fact that we do not have vaccines on island. Further on down in the term and down in the year, then we can re-engage in those conversations. We will continue to encourage and to use information to encourage both parents and teachers. We want both sides of the education stakeholders to be vaccinated, because that will create the level of coverage that we want. When I talked earlier about where we would like to be, it's based on having both parents and teachers vaccinate in order to protect the children. So in the medium term, then we'll have something more to discuss as it relates to vaccination. We're going to just continue to use the Ministry of Health's public education campaigns as it relates to vaccines, to continue to encourage persons to vaccinate for the safety of our children.
Do you think if teachers feel force or pressure, this may result in perhaps some of the teachers leaving the profession? Have you already seen that, Mr. Romney?
Well, I cannot really speak. I don't think we are not pressuring or forcing. I think our stance have always been to encourage persons to vaccinate. I have not seen any evidence that suggests persons would leave the profession over this issue, right? What I will say though, and I think we all have, I mentioned it in my earlier remarks, our foundation principle is what's in the best interest of our children and how do we protect them. They're in a vulnerable group that cannot be vaccinated at this time. So on that premise, we continue to encourage teachers that are not vaccinated to do so. The minister alluded just now that we've seen significant improvement based on some SNAP polls that we've done with teachers with regards to the level. I think some time ago we were a little above 50%, and now, based on what we are seeing, it's closer to 80% of teachers across the system that are now vaccinated. So things are improving significantly. And we continue to encourage teachers that are not yet vaccinated to, as soon as possible, to do so. But I want to say to parents though, vaccination is one protective level. Right? There are others, and we've been very diligent in ensuring that the other levels of protection available to persons within the system are adhered to.
Can you say how the classrooms are being prepared for the reopening of schools? Like any perhaps deep sanitization, the cleaning, constant cleaning, and so forth. What will be happening? What will happen going forward?
Yes. Since the very first lockdown and when we started with COVID, we've changed operations significantly where that is concerned. At the commencement of each academic year, we do a full deep cleaning of all teaching and learning spaces, all support spaces. And then our custodians and cleaners are trained on how to conduct daily and evening sanitizations in preparation for the next day. And there are also sanitizations that occur during the school day, moving from from classes to break and back into classes and so forth. Lunch as well is covered. Bathrooms are monitored on an hourly basis, and cleaning occurs as needed, and sanitization occurs as needed as well. We also increase custodian staff to ensure that we are able to live up to that expectation that we are sanitizing throughout the day. My compliments and thanks to everyone that made the sacrifices, the Ministry of Finance and everyone who continually make those sacrifices to ensure that the education system have the resources to do that. We also ensure classrooms are provided with hand sanitizer and wipes and so forth, and the resources they need to ensure teachers have access to sanitization resources, and so do students. So yes, we are continuing along those lines.
We know go ahead.
When will teachers be contacted regarding most of what you shared here today?
Teachers already have all that was shared here today. Remember, these are this department's e-learning guidelines that were released in 2020. So teachers already have that. They've been utilizing it during all e-learning sessions. It was the guidelines that they utilized during the e-learning days. And during the last shutdown, these are the very same guidelines that were used. So teachers have all that material already.
And they have been engaged and told that this is what we're moving forward with, basically, is what they're asking.
Yes.
Okay. Another question online. My child is new to the school system here. What resources will be available to assist him in getting used to this kind of new teaching?
Okay. Well, first of all, is to ensure that the child, for all new students, we will need first to set them up with government email address, the student email address, get them into the e-learning platform. And once that is done, there are instructional videos and the teacher can provide that support. If parents are looking for additional support where that is concerned, the e-learning team can also provide that child and that parent with additional support. We are looking for 2 weeks in the first instance, and we are hoping we don't have to go beyond that, but it's just to get things started and going. But what I will encourage that parent to do is to reach out to the class teacher once that person is assigned, or reach out to us now, utilizing the contact details, and we can see what can be done in the interim, what specific support is needed and how we provide it.
What about parents who have 2 children going to primary school? How will they be able to do 2 classes at the same time?
I'm assuming that's a situation where there's only one device in the home.
And one parent,
and
it seems.
Right, okay. Okay, in that case, what we will say to that parent is that you need to touch base with the 2 teachers that are assigned to your children, and look at their schedule to see if we can work in together to solve that problem, to see if schedules can be staggered in such a way that they are not conflicts for the computer during live sessions. These are things that we can assist and work with the home to get a workaround. That one is not really that difficult to find a solution to.
All right, what about the children that are starting preschool and the private schools? I'm not sure that the government is necessarily responsible for these provisions, but what is available for these students?
Yeah, we work very closely with the pre-primary sector on a number of initiatives. We also, government also provides direct support to that sector. And working with UNICEF, I could report here, and thanks to UNICEF, all teachers in that sector was provided with a laptop to strengthen the ability of the sector to provide e-learning support to students at that sector. Those teachers will be receiving those laptops as early as planning week. They are currently here at the Department of Education. The schools will no doubt touch base with parents on how to arrange the initial orientation of students to get things started for that during that 2-week period. But I must again say that with the work of teacher Susan Smith as the EO primary, she was able to secure the funding to get those laptops for all teachers at the pre-primary level.
Children transitioning from second farm to third farm, campus B to campus A, new farm teachers, new system, when will they be briefed, included in about this process?
Right, like I said, the decision to start at e-learning was just made, finalized yesterday. We're now working through all of that. What I would say to parents is that what you're going to see coming out of the department and at the schools now on a day-to-day basis are the guidelines of what will happen in each of those circumstances. So I ask that you just be patient with us so we can walk through it. We've moved from face-to-face to e-learning. This is the first time we will be starting a new academic year with e-learning. So we'll have to work out how best to do those orientations and those transitions virtually to get the students off to a start. But parents will be seeing information with regards to that coming out from schools shortly.
How will children social distance in the classroom once we have returned to the classroom? For example, will there be glass dividers? What's the plans for the future?
All right. At the primary level, we are very pleased that the new structures will be ready for the new academic year. Classrooms are a lot larger now. All the partitions have been removed, so they have the full classrooms, and those classrooms at Adrian T, at Valley, at MVPS, at significant parts of OKPS are much larger, so we can do social distancing and mask wearing to ensure maximum, as high a level of protection as possible to our children as they return. So we are not in the situation that we were last year, where social distancing was near impossible. It's a lot more feasible with the new structures, so we are pleased with that. And also we continue to encourage teachers and students to wear masks during the classroom. It's required, sorry, not encouraged. I said encourage? Sorry, it's required. My apologies.
We know that the pandemic has been extremely stressful on parents and even children. Do you find that persons are accessing the psychosocial support hotline?
In my experience, I think that the psychosocial support hotline isn't being used as much as it could be used. We would have 1 or 2 calls coming in that you can actually provide some assistance for. You might have 1 or 2 prank calls coming in as well, which isn't really ideal. But we do want to continue to encourage persons. These are trained personnel who are tasked with dealing with conflict or de-escalation measures for persons who are are dealing with a number of mental health issues. So I really do want to encourage persons, if they're dealing with psychosocial issues and with mental health issues, not to be afraid to reach out to the mental health hotline. We have a very confidential staffing of that hotline, and so I think that if it is possible, I would encourage persons to use it if they are experiencing any of the things that we just mentioned.
Will Planning Week be held virtually this year? That's for the teachers.
My apologies. Yes, we are using what we are referring to as a hybrid approach, where part of it will be persons within a setting where presentations and stuff are concerned, and everyone else will be participating virtually. Okay, so Planning Week, yes, and schools will be communicating with their respective staffs on the approaches that will be best for that particular institution, given what is already planned during Planning Week. So it's different from each school. Across all schools, they have different activities and engagements planned. So they will determine the best approach for their school.
Teachers are not required to report to school during the start of the term, this 2-week period, and conduct their classes from there, are they?
I won't use the word required. The option is available, and let me say, like I said, we'll be using a hybrid approach during Planning Week. So schools will advise teachers on the nature of the engagements during Planning Week. After Planning Week, when school commences on September 6th, it depends. If a teacher has challenges with a reliable internet source at home, they might prefer to utilize a reliable internet source at the school environment. So it depends. The teachers may also need to access the school for resources, to produce material, to scan material. So it's not a lockdown that we're dealing with. So teachers will need to make those determinations as to whether they work from home or whether they do a combination of both. But they need to know that they're free to enter the school compound for any resources that they need, or to conduct any sessions if that's a necessity.
Is the split or shift system still the mode for teaching at the high school?
Yes.
I have 2 specific questions coming in from a parent. They're saying most of the classrooms at the OKPS are still small. What provisions will be made specifically for that school? They also stated that wearing masks and talking all day is virtually impossible for 8 hours. So can you address those 2 questions?
Yeah. The protocols that we ended with last year will continue. In spaces where social distancing is not possible, we encourage mask wearing. One of the things that we are also encouraging, mask wearing is required, but one of the things we are encouraging is mask breaks. Brief moments where we can give students the ability to take off the mask rather than having it on all from the time they enter to the time they leave. That's not encouraged. We do encourage mask breaks. In addition to that, students who may have medical challenges or so forth, breathing, with the mask, once that is verified and known to the school, they are also allowed to wear face shields. We also encourage teachers with direct contact with students to wear face masks, but when teaching, if it's easier for a teacher to teach, to wear a face shield. Okay, and we did provide face shields to all schools last year. It's something that we'll look at again with the commencement of the academic year.
Final question coming in from a parent. Are there any guidelines for the preschools? Because they're just wondering if there are any guidelines that the preschools have to follow, because they feel that the preschools are being shortchanged in that area.
Okay. Yes, the preschools have a set of and they do provide them to their parents in terms of how they will operate during that period. A number of them started to utilize online platforms. They also utilize PACs. A significant number of them utilize PACs, and they work directly with parents in that regard. So what I will encourage parents to do is to reach out to the specific preschool and find out what the guidelines are and what the areas of support and how they will be engaging students during that period. But I must say this, irrespective to the fact that all of them did not have laptops during the previous shutdowns, they were very diligent in ensuring packs were created, very diligent in ensuring that they were distributed and providing support during the lockdown period. So we do our best to support the pre-primary sector. That's our foundation. We do it by sourcing resources wherever we can get it, and also the government of Anguilla provide subventions on an annual basis to support a variety of initiatives at the pre-primary level. And that will continue because, like I said, it's our foundation, and if our students get off to a very good start, it's very likely that they will do well throughout the education system. So everything we can do to support them and to encourage them, we do our best to do so.
Are new hire teachers being contacted as to what school they will be working and what classroom?
That process is ongoing, yes.
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to this press conference. I know that there are a lot of questions still to be answered, and those will be addressed within this 2-week period. Of course, school doesn't start until the 6th of September, and we are currently on the 20th of August. So there's a number of days, a couple weeks that we have to work out some kinks. And I would encourage parents, if they have questions and concerns, please to bring it to the school or to the institution that your child is attending to. If you have problems with communication at a specific level, to take it to the next level at the school, so take it to the principal, and once that reaches there, and let's just say that the problem isn't resolved, then to bring it to the Department of Education for it to be resolved at that point. So we do want to ensure that there's a flow and that you know exactly where to go in terms of the communication process, so that there aren't instances where information is coming at higher up and then we have to go all the way back down and start all over again before we find and resolve the issue. So sorry?
One question just came in. Online schooling is a requirement for all schools, or public schools, or private schools allowed to meet?
Public schools. We encourage private schools to do so, but it is a requirement for public schools. So as I was saying, just to finish off, I would encourage persons who have any questions to please contact, especially if there are questions in relation to your institutions, the school institutions, please contact the institution that your child is attending for answers. And if you find that you're not getting the answers there, then you can bring them to the department level to be addressed. Of course, you'll be able to find more information as to what's going to happen on the 6th of September on the Department of Education's Facebook page. We'll also be able to put more information out on Radio Anguilla or other sources in relation to the reopenings of schools, and to check your emails for further information. So thank you for attending. Thank you to the press for being here. and we look forward to working with you as it relates to this reopening.